Today I'm excited to sew and share with you a pair of comfortable and practical pants. These are the June pants by Helen's Closet. There are a few views for this pattern. You can sew shorts with either a curved edge or a straight hem, or these pair of pants. The construction for the pants and the straight hem shorts are the same, so you could use this sew along for both projects. All of the views offer the option of pockets and a drawstring. I've left a link to the pattern below so you can check out all the details, grab a copy, and sew it along with me. So grab that pattern, mark your notches, and let's get started. We're going to start with our front waistband and preparing our buttonhole area. On your front waistband pattern piece, you have marks indicating where to sew your buttonholes. Around these buttonhole markings, I've drawn where I'm going to be placing my interfacing. I'm going to take a scrap piece of interfacing measuring 3 inches by 2 inches and place it over the buttonhole area on my fabric. I fused the interfacing to that section and marked where my buttonholes will go, and now I'm ready to sew them in place. Now I'm going to open up my buttonholes and then place my front waistband aside for now. Grab your 2 drawstring pieces and place them right sides together, matching the short ends, and pin in place. Sew one short end with a 5/8 inch seam allowance and press the seam open. Now that these 2 drawstring pieces are connected, we're going to fold them once again lengthwise, right sides together, and pin across that entire long edge. Sew your raw edges together with the 1/4 inch seam allowance from one short end all the way to the other. And once that's sewn, go ahead and turn your drawstring right side out. One way to do this is to attach a safety pin to one end and slowly draw it through to the other. And then take this to your ironing board and press your drawstring flat. Place your corresponding back and front pieces right sides together and pin along the inseam. Sew your inseam from the top to the bottom with a 5/8 inch seam allowance and do this for both sets of front and back pieces. Once you've sewn it, you can finish the seam in your preferred method. I'm going to be using my serger. Here's the bottom hem of my pants opened out flat. It will be much easier to hem the pants later if we've already pressed these edges to the inside. So I've gone to my ironing board and I've pressed the hem to the inside of the garment by 1 1/4 inches all the way across. I also pressed the bottom raw edge to the inside by 3/8 of an inch. And I've done this for both sets of pant pieces. Place one of your pocket pieces right sides together with your front pant piece matching the side seam and matching your notches. Now we're going to sew our pocket to the front piece using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, you also want to finish this seam. I'm going to use my serger to finish from the top of the pant to just below the bottom of the pocket, maybe by about 1/4 inch or so. Now that I've sewn and serged this pocket, I'm going to open it out flat, opening it out over this seam allowance. And then we're going to understitch this pocket. We're going to sew the pocket to the seam allowance about 1/8 of an inch away from the original stitching line, from the top to the bottom of the pocket. Now that we've understitched that seam, we're going to take the opposite end of the pocket and place it right sides together with the back piece. Pin in place matching your notches. Sew your pocket to the back piece with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then finish your seam in the same way as we did for the front pant. I'm going to be serging from the top all the way to just below the pocket. Now that I've sewn the pocket to the back pant, I'm going to press that pocket once again so that it's lying over that attachment seam. Understitch once again, sewing the pocket to the seam 1/8 of an inch away from the original stitching line. Place your front and back pieces right sides together and have your pocket laying out so that it's also right sides together with itself. Match up the side seams of your pants and pin in place, and also pin along the bottom of your pocket. Now we're going to sew the side seam of the pant from the top of the pant to the first notch that we transferred from our pattern piece. We're going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the original stitching line that you attached your pocket with. Then we're going to start a fresh set of stitches starting at the edge of the pocket, all the way along the bottom of the pocket with a 5/8 inch seam allowance, until we reach the notch that's at the side seam just above the bottom of the pocket. Pivot our stitching and continue stitching with a 5/8 inch seam allowance to the bottom hem of the pant. Then you can finish the seam of the bottom of the pocket and the remainder of the side seam in your preferred method. I'm going to take it to the serger and serge from the bottom corner of the pocket all the way to the seam, and then I'm going to open out that pocket so that this seam becomes as flat as possible and continue serging all the way to the bottom of the hem. Now turn your pocket and line up the top edges along the front pant piece and pin in place. Baste the top of your pocket along the top of your front pant piece with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Repeat all of those steps to attach your other pocket to your other set of front and back pieces. And then we're going to hem the bottoms of both of these pant sets. Fold up the bottom of your pant legs along the pre-creased lines to the inside of the pant and fold up the upper raw edge along the 3/8 inch pressed line for a nice clean finish and pin in place all the way around. Now take both of these pant legs to your sewing machine and edge stitch close to that inner fold all the way around the bottom of both legs. Turn one of your pant legs right side out. Place it inside of the pant leg that is wrong side out. Now that one of your pant legs is inside the other and the materials are right sides together, match together your inseams and pin the crotch seam all the way around. Sew your crotch seam from one top edge all the way around to the opposite top edge with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to finish this seam using my serger all the way around. Place your waistband pieces right sides together and pin or clip your short seams. Sew the short seams with a 5/8 inch seam allowance and then press the seams toward the back. I've also taken the waistband to the ironing board and pressed the entire waistband in half lengthwise wrong sides together all the way around. Place your waistband on the top of your pants right sides together, making sure that your buttonholes are facing the center of your top front piece. Match your seams and notches and pin in place all the way around. Once your waistband is attached, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and sew all the way around with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Near the center back, I'm going to leave an opening in my stitches of about 3 inches so that I can insert my elastic. Back stitching at both sides of my stitches. I've cut a length of elastic for my size according to the measurement guide listed in the pattern instructions. And the recommended width of the elastic is 1.5 inches. I've attached a safety pin to one end of the elastic and I'm going to draw it through the waistband, through the opening that I left. Once I've pulled the elastic all the way through, I'm going to overlap the edges by about 1/2 inch. I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and zigzag stitch back and forth a few times to secure. Now I've pulled my elastic fully to the inside of the waistband. I'm going to take this back to the sewing machine and follow the original waistline stitching to close my opening shut. I'm also going to take it to my serger and serge around the entire waistband seam through all layers. Pull your elastic in the waistband a few times so that the fabric is distributed evenly over the elastic. To finish the waistband, we're going to do 2 rows of top stitching. The first row of top stitching will be all around the top waistband with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. You're also going to top stitch all along the bottom of the waistband, 3/8 of an inch away from the waistline seam, all the way around. You're just going to be using a regular straight stitch, pulling the elastic taut as you sew so that the fabric is nice and straight. I've attached a safety pin to the end of my drawstring and I'm going to draw it through the waistband just as we did for the elastic, this time entering through the button loops in the front. You can decide how long you want the drawstring to be, so you can trim the ends if you want them to be a little bit shorter. For a nice clean finish, you could tuck the raw edges to the inside of the drawstring. Sew that shut a few times back and forth with your sewing machine. Alternatively, you could tie the end in a knot, which will also help keep the ends from fraying. Once you finish the ends of your drawstring, you're all done with your pants. Thank you for watching this sew along. Make sure you check out my other videos for more great sewing inspiration, and I'll see you in the next video.